All right, we're live. I want to thank you guys for joining me today. If you don't know, I am Justin, host of the Crit Academy podcast, aka Total Dumas, and today I'm going to be walking through a simple process to make professional-looking D&D monster stat blocks. Now, if you don't know, we've been kind of producing our own content for a while here, and I really wanted to share some of the stuff I've learned. Now, what I'm going to show you is a simple way, whether you've got you don't need any special tools except for an internet browser, basically, which makes it really nice. Maybe I'll turn down that music until we actually are going here. Whoop, pause that. And so, what I wanted to do is help others create beautiful pieces of, in my opinion, it's art. I mean, that's really what this is. For my patrons, I always have been, giving them the content free. They've got to watch the in progress stuff, and I've streamed a few times since then. But I really wanted to give you guys a nice jumping off point for creating content. So hopefully, this will be, if this is popular, I'll continue to do more. But we're going to start off with something simple, the stat blocks. If you don't know, on our Patreon page, every week I release a new monster stat block, and I go above and beyond just a stat block. I give a little bit of lore and all that stuff, and I give a nice little image to it. Before we get into, I want to start that when I first, there are a multitude of different ways to do this. There are templates galore. You can go to GM Binder. You can go to Home Brewery and check those out. And in fact, I think the original template that I got for this that I've altered since then was from some sort of link either on Home Brewery or one of the Reddits. But I wanted to put this together and show that you can make amazing looking content without all the necessary technical skills. That being said, a little bit of creativity is needed and a little bit of searching and stuff. So, to kind of get us going, I want to start off with the value of the SRD document, the basic standard shit. What does SRD stand for? Um, the reference document, the standard reference document. What this is basically a document you can find on Wizards website. Just go to media.wizards.com and or just type in the SRD-OGL. You get it. When I get a chance, I'll include it in the link of the resources I'm going to put together for this. But basically, what it is, it's the open content that anyone can access for creating your own content. And the reason I like this because it's in PDF format, first of all, and so it's easy to go through and look for what you're looking for when trying to make your stat blocks follow like the proper WotC stuff. If you haven't visited DM's Guild, they actually have word templates and stuff like that and guide templates that help with that stuff as well. So that way you're not just putting in any sort of verbiage, you're actually trying to emulate exactly the proper verbiage that WotC uses. I know that can be very fickle sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. It's got multiple ways to say pretty much the same thing when certain conditions are met. Honestly, I'm not going to pretend to be a master of it because honestly, I'm not. I mess up a lot, and I've learned recently how much better it is to be able to reference that stuff quickly. So by using the Control F feature, the find feature in the system reference document, that's what it is, system reference document, you can quickly search for kind of keywords of what you're looking for and look for other features, spells, magic items, things like that that might have that same wording so you can get it right. Now, that being said, if you don't know, we do a special monster variant every week on the show. And one of the things that I've recently been doing is publishing those in a nice professional format for all my patrons. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I want to welcome those who have joined us, Stephen and Carp Majadon, maybe. I feel bad if I'm mispronouncing that, but I want to thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully you guys will get a lot out of this. So this is going to sound weird, but we're actually going to do this through Google Slides. And once again, I know that sounds weird. It's not the most ideal program. Currently, I've went from Homebrew to GM Binder to Word to Google Google Docs and slides to I used Scribus, and now I'm actually using I'm currently using the Microsoft Publisher because it costs me $7 a month, and I get all the cool features of all that. So Office 365 comes with all that stuff. So that ended up being a better investment. That being said, we're going to use Google Slides because anybody can access it. All you need is a Google account and go and create it. What also means I can easily have a template ready, and as you'll see on the screen, this is a basic template. This is not the current template I use, and I wanted this one to match more with the traditional back color and everything that you see in the professional WotC documents. You like Armageddon? Armageddon? Very cool, Armageddon. So because of that, we're going to use this format, and by the end of it, we'll have a nice little monster that you guys can use. Now, normally these are set aside specifically for my patrons, but in order to do this video, I thought I would just go ahead and do one I was already planning on doing and stream it for you guys. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to ask, please let me know. I am trying my best to follow the comments. I'm not super great at that, but I am going to do my best. I'm also going to try to kind of talk my way through it as I go. And that way, if I'm thinking out loud, you can kind of see my brain thoughts. So first thing we want to do with Google Slides, you'll see that this is the appropriate size for a PDF file. The slide doesn't start off that way. You actually have to go to File and go down to Page Setup here, and you can actually customize the size. Speaking of building, yes, it did. Thank you so much. Carpageddon or Armageddon, K Armageddon. Armageddon says that he actually gave us a really good comment on when we were talking about Gilgamesh in one previous episode and how how to kind of create that character if you want. So you can find that on the original YouTube video. That being said, so you see here that we have the page set up. It's the 8.5 by 11 inches. You can use whatever metric you want. You can change this. I go by that because that's easier for me. Once again, I'm going to make this available to everyone in a link or something after I'm done. It'll include the template and the SRD link document, so you can have those as reference. A few things that I want to note on. This isn't exactly like WotC stuff, but it's as close as you're going to get with the formats that are here. It includes the main title, the subtitle. There's a sample text box there if you want to use the little create the table that's used in so many different things. And then of course this part is the monster stat block that I've added. One thing you'll notice is that there isn't any. Let's go ahead and view that in a little bit. If you go to zoom here, we'll go to 100%. You'll notice there's no like highlights or anything. I personally have removed those, but you can easily like make a copy of this here and change the size and color and add it underneath it. That's just my personal preference, and you'll actually see I will add it into a couple locations. But it does for me. I don't like the way it looks all the time in my newer format, but you can add those if you want to include those. So why don't we get started? So in this template, I already have a monster idea. I already have the stuff I need. If you've watched our show, you know that we do the, thank you for sharing there, Chris. Loresmith is awesome. If you haven't checked out his shit, it's awesome. Go over there and check out loresmith.com and see all his fat loots. Thank you for the share. So in order to kind of get this ball moving, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my if I can find it, here it is, my notes that actually have the here they are. So from our show notes you can see that I already have a monster selected. We are doing the Acroan Crusader. So if you're not following the show yet, I actually have been looking at wanting to publish something for the upcoming Mythic of Odyssey on DM's Guild. So what I got here is I've been taking some of the cards and using it for inspiration for monster creations. Now, I don't know any of the lore or anything that's involved in any of these. You can see that it comes with an ability here that's, well, first of all, let's talk about the art. The art and the magic cards is amazing. So here we've got this beautiful piece of art. And so it's got a guy wielding a sword and shield, and you can kind of see he's leading the charge. And then when he comes into play, he summons another creature. So that was kind of what I wanted to be the core of this character, is give him a feature that lets him summon reinforcements. Now, as DMs, we always have the power to just, add whatever waves we want, but adding a character that specifically has that feature was something I really wanted to kind of jump on. And that does give us a little flavor down here in the corner. You see an Acroan soldier's worth is measured by the number of swords raised by his battle cry. So once again, that's a little bit of flavor. So let's go back to our document here. You can see that we've kind of got it written up how we're going to do it. So I'm just going to make this super simple. Since I've already written it, I'm just going to control and copy, go back to my sample document here, and actually double check to make sure. Yeah, so we'll go to our sample document here. We're going to give it a name. The title of this is what? A Crowan Crusader, right? And we could just replace this text right here with something we've already written, right? Now you'll immediately see that it changed the format. The format that I've chosen for this is the Allegra SE for the titles. And then I just go Times New Roman at 9 font here, but you can really pick whatever font you want. It doesn't really matter. Oops, didn't get the rest of that. You can go and just copy the formats to make sure you keep them consistent. And so we've got this little bit here. We don't have much of a subheading here. So what we're going to do is we're going to name it lore. This is one of the things that I do for my patrons, is I create a little bit of special lore that when the players use certain skill checks, they can learn these little bits of pieces to help them in the game. I already know that I'm not going to need this, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete this because I'm not going to need it. It's out of the way. And that leaves me a nice little spot for my monster, right? You can see my monster image here. If you're looking for good images, if you go to DM's Guild, there is a creator section, and where you can get a bunch of WotC official documents like the one in this image here that can be actually published on DM's Guild, which is pretty cool. So I definitely recommend checking that out. Obviously, you can get art from other places like Shutterstock or something along those lines, or maybe you've got your own custom art. I do recommend, if you are going to use something that's like not WotC or sanctioned, make sure you give the art credit to whoever it is, if you don't own the art right, the art. So here we got an image here. This is the one that I already had that was default. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to change it. So what we can do is we can delete that. And I've already picked out my art, but you can go here and hit insert. If you start creating a drive and fill it with things you want to do, for me, it's art, some of the WotC art that I really like. I scroll through it and I pick some things that help inspire me. Obviously, I could just as easily use this image here, but I would honestly rather not, for the obvious reason that it is a Patreon thing. So because of that, I've got a different piece of art, but as long as you're not making money on these things, when you do your homebrew and you include where the art comes from, it's usually not a problem. There is kind of a fair use gray area there, but always try to give credit where the art comes from, especially if it's from like DeviantArt or something like that. Even in this PDF, you can create an easy link that goes right back to that if you click on the image. So I do recommend that. So I already have my art here. So we're going to go to image here. We're going to go to our drive, and you can see I've got the recent section. Doesn't actually show. You can see all the stuff that I've recently used. We go to my drive here. I don't remember where I put that, I don't think. Let's go to insert. I thought it would pop up since I just recently used it, but clearly it's not, and that's okay. So we'll go to insert, image from upload from computer. We're going to go to creations. I actually pulled this art from Shutterstock from a previous art piece that I used. So if we go to projects, creations, and down to, it was weapon perks, I believe, in art. So here's all the art that I used in weapons perks. Some of it made it, some of it didn't. But if I go here, this one's the one, the background removed. There we go. So let's close that. So now you can see our images here. This is the image I decided to go with. Once again, you can pick whatever you want. Now, I'm not going to get into, at least yet, on removing backgrounds and stuff. I do plan to do an episode on that. So if you've got something that's got like a white background, or you want to fade out all the excess crap around it, I am planning on doing a short little episode on that. but this assumes you already have an art piece in mind and planned out. So this already looks like it's going to be a good spot, right? So I don't like that he's pointing this way. I think we can blow him up. So if we click here, you can go up to, is it arrange, order? No, rotate. So right here you can see we can do flip horizontally. Look at that. Now we've managed to move it, and it takes up a little, it gives us a little, make it a little bit bigger there. Without overriding on the text, though I haven't actually filled this out yet, so we will get there. So some things that I want to challenge you with while I'm making the stat blocks is this guy has no lore with him. So I need some skill checks. You can see here as an example from a previous one was the lackey, I think, that I use this as the template. It says the intelligence, history, DC 10. Monsters are often weak, so they must fight dirty. Throwing sand into the eyes of the unsuspected enemy is a favorite. That's because they have a special ability called Dirty Fight or something that blinds the target. I don't remember exactly, but so if you're watching, you want to help me add on to this, come up with one or two sentences of a check that if the player check wanted to roll for, or you asked them to roll for, pieces of information we could give them. You can see that this guy summons allies, and he has a dangerous blade storm effect. So you really could tie some of those checks directly into some of the features they have. If they've got special resistances or special personalities or combat styles, all those sorts of things can really become great pieces of, I say lore, but pieces of information that you can feed to the players. So here we've got our monster name. So we're going to put the acro in again, Crusader. So once again, in our previous thing here, we're going to use the origins of the bandit captain. So luckily, you'll see that that's in the SRD, so we can use it pretty much as is with no penalty. So we go here, we open up our SRD, and we will make our changes just as we fill out the text. So in this case, it is a medium humanoid creature. It can be any race, right? And any alignment. So right there, you're already set with the basics, so we don't got to change that. We're going to make a change to the stat block here, and they're actually wearing studded leather. Because we're using the generic stat block, we don't have to change any of that stuff, which is why I like monster variants so much. We can simply just make a few changes to the features and maybe to a stat here and there to better fit the theme we're going for, but it's not really necessary. We'll give it plus 20. So it's just got normal movement speed, no big deal. Remember I said I might go ahead and just add this. So if you hit Control-C and copy that, this technically should go right here, and it'll give you a little bar when it's centered. Boom, there's our first bar. So we got to type in his strength here, which is 15, right? And then you can go over and give it a plus 2. I'm not going to explain how modifiers work. Use the player's handbook. But you're basically just taking what you got here in the SRD and adding it to your data here. And it's pretty simple. It takes a little bit of time, but the template being ready actually makes it a lot easier and saves really a lot of time as far as a production rate, I guess. Now obviously you can change the background. There's a background image button somewhere over here. Is it view maybe? Where'd it go? Ah, there it is. You can insert images and change the background and stuff. So you can really don't have to use this one that's here, but like my patrons know, I use like a special silver one or grayish color that I like. I'm trying to keep a theme, so when I put them all together, it's just already the right right colors and shit. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer questions as we're going through this. So we've just got our stat blocks here, and there's some skills that that we're going to use. It'll be the saving throw. These should always be bold with no periods or commas or anything after them. If you're unsure of a format, once again, reference the SRD. It really makes this stuff a lot easier of what everything should be. There is a standard in the Dungeon Master's Handbook that tells you about what range certain stats should be. So like when I'm creating my variants, I'm constantly looking at that to make sure I stand, oh, a creature of this CR shouldn't have a damage more than this, or should have an AC, or if you decide to go over those limits, you need to start subtracting from some of the other features. If you increase its damage and health, it should be easily accessible by like a spell, maybe a low wisdom or something like that, so it can be charmed, you know. So those are the things you kind of want to keep in mind when you're doing these sorts of things. So we're going to add our dex, which is a +5, and whiz +2. So and then it does have a couple skills. It has athletics and deception. I don't want my monster variant to have deception. It doesn't fit with the soldier theme. It's more of a bandit theme, so I'm not going to add that. Instead, maybe we can give him something else. Athletics is a +4. And since his strength is a +2, we know that the modifier they're using is a +2 for the proficiency, right? So let's say we want him to be, instead of skilled in athletics, maybe he is charisma, right? Persuasion. Maybe he's a leader. He brings the command. So maybe we'll give him a persuasion bonus, right? Give him +4 since his modifier is +2, and bam, there we go. Special senses, that's just a 10. I don't know why there's a period after that. There shouldn't be. Passive perception is just a 10. Our wisdom's pretty low. New question, SRD, you probably already said it. Yes, the SRD is the system reference document that WotC has released, allowed to be used with OpenGL and other settings. And basically, you can take anything that's in there and copy it verbatim and add it to your your whatever you're going to publish. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a lawyer. I have a very limited understanding of exactly what it does. Read through the document yourself if you decide to publish any professional content, because there are some restrictions on some of the things. Specifically, the most noticeable thing I've observed is like the Beholder and the Mind Flayer and Illithid. Those sorts of things and names and locations aren't really allowed, but everything that's in the system reference document basically is stuff you can use in your creations, which is interesting because it includes some of the player options, which, once again, I've already looked into going through and redoing some of those maybe for my own future setting if I decide to do that. But and you can use the mechanics as is, which is pretty useful for publishing. All right, so we got his athletics skill, and we added persuasion because he's a very proven soldier and has a lot of pull. We're going to leave the languages any two languages so the DM has a little bit of room to play, once again, with the race, the alignment, and the languages they speak. This is a CR2 monster, which means it has a 450 experience reward, I guess. So one of the first things that we talked about in our changes, in order to keep the damage within reason, we have to drop multi-attack. So we are not going to include that bandit feature into our creation here. So what we are going to include, it has no active skills, I don't think, just legendary actions. So we'll get this out of here, which is once again just a sample. You'll see that any abilities here are bold and italicized. Special features such as pack tactics, we're going to get rid of that. We probably should click this here, Control C, and create another one. There we go. So that follows the more traditional template of how you design those, at least if you're following the WotC framework, right? All right, so the actions that it's going to have, since we lost the multi-attack, we don't got to worry about that. What we are going to do, though, is we are going to change the... I mean, you can leave it the scimitar that the bandit uses. You'll see here in our image, it's a spear. And because of that, I'm going to make a slight change to what we covered on the show. So we'll go, we'll add the ranged attack, which is a dagger. So you just change this and make sure you change the damage. Well, the sling and the dagger have the same damage die, so I don't got to change that. There's our plus hit based on our +2 proficiency and our, I probably should actually scroll down and look at what I'm covering here. So the damage is 1d4. The attack bonus for the ranged attack, which because it's a dagger, it could be a melee or ranged attack. Because we're adding dex to it, it's got a +3 to dex. So what we're going to do is change this to 3 plus the 2 proficiency. The range for a dagger is 20 to 60. So we're going to change that. And now you have to figure out the damage. It's the average plus the it's the average on the die, which is 2, plus the modifier, which in this case for the dagger is +3. So that's going to be a 5. And we are changing it to piercing damage. Boom. So that is finished there. So now we've got that. We are going to do this. I'm going to change this to a javelin. But you don't really have to. That's up to you. I think I spelled that wrong. It's a javelin. So it's a melee attack. It's going to have a +5 to hit. Its damage die, I believe, is 1d6, but luckily we can reference our system reference document. We can hit Control F. I'll pop this up really quick. We'll go here, Control F, and we can type in javelin, and we can find there's 7 iterances of it, and 1 should be the equipment list. So this gives us all the stats that we need right here. It's a thrown property. Range is 3 to 120. So, and the damage die is 1d6. Or I think I picked javelin, but I actually think we want spear. Yeah, because we want the versatile. So it's supposed to be a spear. That is my bad. So we'll go back to change that to spear. Right? Now, you can try to figure out all the technicalities of it, but if you just type in Control F spear, you can find a monster that has it. You can find the proper verbiage of how it should be written out once you get past all the spells and crap. Right here. So here is the appropriate format for a spear, right? So we want to transition that into our format. Now, you probably might even get away with copy. I've never actually tried. Let's see if copy and paste works. No, that didn't work at all. Okay. So we have our spear here, right? For our mount. So it is going to be, let's take a look again. Oops, wrong one. So it's a melee or ranged weapon attack, gives us our bonus, gives us our range, and then it also includes the damage if it's wielded with 2 hands, assuming that the soldier loses his shield, which is something we didn't really touch on here. So in this one, it doesn't technically have a shield like the image. So what you could do is, if you really want to get technical, you could change this armor to just say something like leather with shield. I'm not going to worry about that because I think that that's not going to make that much of a difference. But if you really wanted him to have a shield like in this image, you could probably change that. So, and maybe that might be worth doing. So let's get this taken care of, and then we'll go through that. Just because I'm showing you this, I think that will be worth. Is this going to be available for video on demand? I fear I've come in far. That is the plan. I'm planning on saving it there, Papa Fox, and making it available to everyone. If you head on over to YouTube, it's actually streaming there right now, I think. I don't ever actually check it, but haven't had no problems yet. So it saves everything that we do there, as well as on Facebook, though Facebook's not super great at organizing all that stuff. So I do have a new playlist on the YouTube channel, so that this will end up in. I don't know how long the transition is from when it goes live and closes to when it's actually on demand, but that is the plan. All right, so let's get back to our spear here. So we're changing it to spear. So I'm going to rewrite this just so you can see the proper writing, but you usually can just replace it, right? So you're going to do melee or ranged weapon attack, and those are always italicized. All right, and then we're going to unitalicize, and we're going to do it as a +5 to hit, right? +5 to hit. and then we do comma. Reach is 5 foot, or yeah, 5 foot, or range 2. I forgot for a second. 2 foot, period, comma, 1 creature. Right now, this right here should be italicized. I don't ever do it because I'm lazy, but technically hit there should be, and the colon should be italicized. So the damage die we're looking at is a 1d6, right, plus 2. Oops. And then we're going to do piercing, comma, or 1d8 plus 2 piercing damage if used with 2 hands to make a melee attack. Now there's a few things we missed here. We don't have the averages. We have to add the averages here. So the average to a d6 is 3. So it'll be 3 plus the 2, right, for strength mod. So that gives us a 5 here. And once again, the average for this is going to be 4. So that gives us a 6 average damage. All right, so there we go. Now, let's go back and address this, right? So because my image has a shield, I'm going to go out of my way to do something I don't generally worry about when I'm doing variants. But because my image has a shield, I change the spear. I might as well go ahead and change the shield. So in order to make sure this AC doesn't change, we want to change the studded armor to something that adds up to 13, right? You'll see his dex is plus 3. So let's go see if we can get something close, right? So we can type in leather armor and scroll through our little system reference document here. See if we can find the actual armor section. Yoink. Oh, I think we're here. Here we go. So in our example here, we have basic leather armor, which is 11 plus dex, bringing it to 14. So if we change this just to leather, and a shield, right? We can change this to 16, and that's not going to make that much of a difference on the challenge rating. So if he gets disarmed or his shield is taken away, then his AC will drop to 14. And we could change this number to a 2 and make this a 3 and make a spear more powerful, but I don't think that's necessary. So let us continue forward. So now we've got our spear and daggers and our actions. What other changes do we want to add here? The big thing that they got here is gains new legendary actions, right? So we want to make sure we're copying the legendary action format correctly, and that's really important. So we can use our system reference document here to find a sample of legendary action in one of the monster stat blocks. Here we go. So it gives you very specific wording, and you want to keep that as close as possible, right? So we'll pick a monster here. We got this one. What is this? Obelith. The monster you pick doesn't matter as long as you get the other information correct. So, whoops, wrong one. So for this one, we're going to go down to right here. You see we've got our, oops, that needs to be pushed back. So you can order the images and send backwards so that when I click here, it actually clicks on the text box and not the image. So the legendary action should be set up similar to the reaction stuff here. So you can probably, that'd be a good way to probably just, I don't think, yeah, we do actually need the reaction stuff. So let's move him out of the way. I don't know that I sent him far enough back. Art should probably be the last thing you add once you actually have everything together. So we go here, let's copy this. Once again, this does have some weird quirks in it because it is just a Google Slides that you have to kind of deal with. Sometimes the image in the text box being annoying is one of them. So we do our legendary actions, and we want to copy this format here, which is, once again, this one for text boxes. You use Calibri. We use Calibri here at size 10. You can shrink it a little bit if you want, but we'll click that right there. So that puts our format right. Mostly because I'm lazy, so we do the Crusader can take 2 legendary actions, choosing from the options below. Only 1 legendary action option can be used at a time, and only at the end of another creature's turn. Fix your typos. I make a lot of those. So I think I actually might have made one somewhere else, maybe not. So once again, I want to remind everyone, if you're watching, I'm looking for some interesting lore to toss into this, some things to reveal to the characters about the character, or about the Acroan Crusader. So if you come up with something really cool, please share it in the chat, and I'm watching that, and we'll come up with something to add to it for our players. That way, those intelligence checks, those history checks, those all those knowledge-based checks really feel like they're useful in this, especially if you reveal weaknesses or strengths of the creatures, right? So here at the end of its turn, we got that. The Crusader regains spent legendary actions at the start of its turn. So there, we've got our legendary action start set up, right? Ooh, excuse me. I actually think reactions is supposed to be above that. That would be accurate. So let's move this like that. Copy and paste. Boom, there it is. So now this one's got a lot of different bolds, so I'll probably end up using the traditional separation stuff to get around it. Alright, so our legendary actions now, we have a couple here. We have Blade Storm and we have Reinforcement. So we'll go ahead and just see if we can copy and paste this. Let's see if that works. Alright, so it's obviously not the right text. That's okay. We can copy format. Bam. And then re-bold this and italicize it. There. Now, if you want to get in proper WotC tech, this should be a hanging image or a hanging first title indent thing. I don't worry about that in this sort of stuff, but if you were to publish it into and you wanted it to really look WotC style, this should be a hanging indent, which, if you wanted to change, I think would be this one. Like that. Something like that. I lost it. So you would get something along those lines. I'm not super fond of that, just because it's unnecessary work for me personally, but that's what it would look like. And you know what? I'll just leave it that way, so it looks like the way it's supposed to be. And you'll see this is I already wrote all this stuff out when we did the show, so it's already done. Obviously, as if you're creating this stuff, hopefully you have it written out as well. Let's move him and get him out of the way for now until we know what size he needs to be. Bring him down here. Alright, so we still have one more legendary action here. We have our reinforcements. This monster is specifically designed to help the DM come up with basically a wave element in their game. This really makes this guy a priority to take down. So if you put him in a group with a few minions to start, by the time they either engage him or get him knocked out, they may have a few more reinforcements, which is not super great for our players. You know what I mean? So we'll go ahead and just hit the little paint roller over here to copy the format there. Once again, our reinforcements title. Now you'll notice that if it costs 1, it doesn't tell you it costs 1. It just assumes you know that based on this up here unless you've got a special one that costs more than one action to use, right? More legendary action to use. So go back to that. So for this one, we're not going to have that. This needs to be bold and italicized. And once again, we want to move this in here. Ooh, that's the wrong one. Oop. Control Z. Make a mistake, which I do all the time. We'll grab it by the bottom. There we go. And then we move the top part back in line with the other one. Boom. Now, I think technically this should probably have a space in between it. Let's go look just to double check. Yep. All right. And you can change these spacings too if you want to make them tighter. I only worry about it occasionally, but you can go up to, is it formats, line spacing, and you can change. You can even do custom, so the distance before and after is different. Depending on what you want. Once again, I'm not going to worry too much about it. But there's a lot of different titles here, so we can probably go ahead and see how they have it formatted here. You get one under action and legendary action and reaction. So we'll just copy this bad boy here, Control C, boom, drag it down, get our little divider line. And if you hover over it until you get the centerpiece, there it is. It's up to you to place those as close to the right distance apart. Once again, it's not really the big thing people are going to be focusing on, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. But once again, if you're a perfectionist, hey, more power to you. Control C and Control V allows us to copy and paste those again. And there we go. Our stat block takes up the whole page. And I've actually got a little room here, so if I need to, I can back it up like that, and that'll free up a little bit more space there. I give myself a little extra room for stuff like that, but that also means since this isn't bound to it, you got to remove all this stuff again. So you should get all the positioning and stuff decided ahead of time, because you don't want to be having to undo all that movement, and oops, that's not right. There we go, and all that shit. Reactions and legendary actions. So there we go. We have it for our stat block. And now you'll see that that's and you can actually split this into like a half page is a stat block here and half is there and put a box around it. That's actually something that is not terribly too uncommon. Oops. If you highlight that and hit format options, you get this allows you to do drop shadows and reflections. If you wanted to box this up, let's close that. If you wanted to box this up, you could go to Insert, and you could just pick a basic shape or a text box. I don't think it matters which one. Pick a basic shape here, drag it over top. Now I'm not going to keep this, but just wanted to show you guys because this is kind of pretty common, right? So that's obviously not going to do any good. But if we change the order and send backwards, and you'll see we got control down and up allows us to send forward and back. So if I hold control and press down, you'll see it gradually appears behind the rest of the content. And poof, there you go. So if you wanted to keep a stat block with the little box design, maybe make that a little bit wider there. But you get it. I'm not going to bother with it. But it's a personal decision. You can also like make it a little bit transparent too. If you select it, and if you want like to be able to see some of the fade from the background, you can fade this box. I think if you go to format options here, not under drop shadow. Go to format options maybe. Position, rotating, reflections, transparency. There you go. So you can change that stuff if you want. Once again, I'm not really interested in this, so I'm going to get rid of it. But if you like it, you can use it. There we go. So I just like it like this personally, because I like to see my background. Now this is a pretty generic background, so maybe nobody will miss it, but once again, personal preference. Got any questions for you guys yet? All right, so now that we're in this, I want to go back and look at this here. So I want to get some lore. You'll see it says information about the lackey. You just change that out with whatever the name of the monster is. We want some good information. So The first thing I like to do is include intelligence. Intelligence, in my opinion, is the most commonly used one. It's used for history. It's used for arcana. I mean, it's used for recovering information. So that's going to almost always be in all your little lore pieces. So I start off with a relatively easy one, but it changes depending on the difficulty of the monster and how common they are. This is a very specific soldier. So maybe they're rare, maybe they're only in one part of the world. That's up to you as the DM. You can adjust and change them as you see fit. So let's read through this kind of what we've got here that Ian put together for me for the show. It says, the Crowan Crusader is a soldier that has proven themselves on the battlefield and commands the respect of troops who obey, of their troops who obeys. I don't think that should be plural, but I could be wrong. I'm terrible at English. Who obey their orders without question. They fight shoulder to shoulder and leave the battle with their shields or weapon on them. That's weird. For Annex and Simede. That must be tied to some sort of flavor, I guess. They always leave the battle with their shields and allies with them. I like that a little bit better. That's some sort of flavor. I assume it's tied to the lore of this particular setting. So kudos to Ian. So now that we give a little brief description of our monster, it doesn't have to be super long, but some people like to do that. Some people want to write this in-depth lore. That's great. It gives you more stuff to share with your players. Hey, kudos to you. So here, what do I want to talk about these shoulders, this information? So we got a really cool ability here for these legendary actions. Oop, that's not supposed to be fight dirty. We need to fix that. Reactions for the bandit. I think that's actually a parry. So let's find that. Bandit Captain. Where are you, Captain? There he is. So he does actually have a parry, so we wanna fix that, right? It says the captain adds 2 to its attack. All right. Sorry, checking all my, making sure I ain't missing anything in the chat here. All right, so let's go back to our sample here. We're going to change this to parry. So we'll say the Crusader adds 2 to its AC against 1 melee attack that would hit it. To do so, the captain must see the attacker and be wielding a melee weapon. That's not a captain. That should be a Crusader. Alright. So, this is interesting because we actually have a shield on this character. So you could say, you could change this must be wielding a melee weapon or shield. To do that. That way, if he doesn't have a spear, he can still block. Okay, so back to where we were at here. So we want to give some good flavor. So I need some good ideas. What do you guys got? I want to kind of start with maybe this piece of information here. So let's do the the battle cry, because that's part of the flavor of these soldiers. Yeah, of these soldiers. Typo. Is legendary. Yeah, because legendary action. We're bringing in reinforcements. They say that any warrior will answer the call to battle. That's a simple DC of 10. History, boom, simple. So the battle cry of these soldiers is legendary for bringing in reinforcements. They say that any warrior will answer the call to battle. So that isn't a direct correlation to this feature, but it gives just enough information to know that, hey, that might be important. Now, a clever player might think, well, we should silence them. Because guess what you can't do when you're silenced? Yell. But let's be honest, not all of our players think about that stuff. So if they roll a high enough intelligence check, maybe you just give that information to them that you know that their booming voice is critical to combat or something. Another thing we could talk about is what other pieces of information could we give? What other skill checks? Intelligence is always the easy one. You just make some good stuff up that fits the theme. If you wanted to include maybe one of their other features like the Blade Storm or the Parry, you could say, let's do another intelligence check. Give it a little bit higher DC. So the idea is if they get, you know, a 15, let's say a 14, and they get that, you would then feed both these pieces of information to them. You wouldn't just choose one or the other. Once again, this is just how I do it. You can choose to have this or not. It's entirely up to you, but I've been doing it, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things from 4th edition is when you do the monsters, they give you a little bit of lore on their tactics and stuff, which is pretty fantastic. So we give a very vague description of what's going on here. So we're gonna delve a little deeper into that with some a little bit better flavor here. So let's turn off the bold. The Acroan Crusader are brothers in arms when it comes to battle. The mastery of their shields and spears I need something good to fit in there. Is one to be feared. They can dance. What do they call it? It's like a dervish blade somebody talked about on the show. I forget what it's called. They can be a blade. There we go. Blade storm on the battlefield, cutting through many foes at once. There we go. So we've given some good pieces of clues to some of their abilities, right? A little bit more common one here versus this one's a little bit higher DC, but gives them a little bit more information. So now you've got two pieces of information. You've alluded to their reinforcements and their Blade Storm abilities, which really separates them, even including the fact that the masters of the shield and spears. All right, so those are pretty simple. I'm going to probably give one more here. Oops. We'll give one here that's not intelligence-based. So I think we could probably go with something perception-based. Something on their shield maybe. Some sort of visual indicator that kind of alludes to who they are, right? So let's do a wisdom perception check. Give our DC, we'll make it we can actually probably make it even simpler. Let's put that at a 12, right? And we'll move that in between the two. History or investigation? Yeah, so I think history or investigation. We've got history twice. Investigation or perception, I think, is a good one. But we want to move away from the intelligence modifier because we've already used that twice. So we want to mix that up. But I do think that both of those would be acceptable in this case. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this to here. Get rid of our little excess crap there. Don't want that shit. Put our wisdom here. Now you can put these in any order. I personally put them in order by difficulty. You could do alphabetical. That's entirely up to you. You could group these together. But I like to just put them in DC order so that they know what they've managed to get. So I don't know which is best. Please give me your opinion. I'm cool either way. So for this one, we want to have some sort of identifier, something they can visually see that alludes to who they are. And so for this, normally you could go back and use this image. You'll notice that this headpiece and this headpiece are very similar. So to me, that says, hey, maybe that could be a visual indicator of who they are. That's funny. Steve says his connection is lagging. The connection between his brain and his text. So I want to include something related to the way he wields the shield and spear and that helmet. So what that can do is, if somebody asks, it can reveal who they are or what they are. Hey, that is interesting. Why is that interesting? It's because it's known to be with these people. But you don't have to reveal more than that. And so that's where we got to find the line, because you need to know the difference from what they see versus what they know, right? So you can see that this guy's clearly proficient. He's clearly a master of the. Well, he looks like he's a master of the shield and spear. How can we reveal that? So this, I think this should be, this whole getup could be a giveaway. So the unique plume signifies alliance. Okay. The unique plume on the masked helmet indicates that this soldier is part of an alliance, part of some sort of alliance. You could even add in here there we go, DM's choice. So that tells you that if you ran into one of these guys, he belonged to still or did at one point to some sort of either military alliance group, something along that line, along those lines. So is it like a, what do you call that? Like a brush plume? Because I think plume, I think feathered hat for some reason. But so those are some pretty interesting starting points just for this example. So what we can do now is decide where we want our art piece. And honestly, I think I want the art piece at the top instead of the bottom. So we can just do this super simple. You can either drag this box down a little bit, just like that, and move the image up. Put him as if he's peering over his stat block. Push it all the way to the edge there. There we go. I like that. Let's move this back down where it goes. So once again, this is more clunky than some other tools, but it's great if you don't have access to those tools or you're not sure how to use them. So there we go. We have a new monster variant stat block. Let's go ahead and give him a name. We are going to call him, because he's from episode 168, I think. Yep. We are going to label it 168 Acroan Crusader. Ooh, I spelled Acroan wrong. So we can do a little bit more with this. I was going to end right at this point, but I think we can do a little more and add a little bit of spice to it, I guess. you'll notice that there's really nothing behind it, right? There's no image or anything like that to really set it apart. We could probably leave it at that, but I wonder if there's some nice artwork that we could toss. Well, maybe that's for another one. Maybe what I'll do is I'll do another segment and we'll expand on this maybe, or we'll do another one with some additional details, because you can easily add like a backdrop to this. Maybe scroll to the bottom here and add like a city here, or an image of a military or army of spear wielders would be really nice, I think. So, alrighty, I think that is where we are going to end this stream. Um, I hope you guys enjoyed it. We got it done in an hour. Look at that. Um, I hope that if this is something you like and you'd like to see more, please leave a comment, share it, like it, tell us all about it, what you like about it, what would you do different. And once again, if you come up with some ideas for this lore and stuff and that we can expand upon, please send it to me. Add it to the comments. We'll make sure to include it. Oh, there is, yeah. So yeah. So thank you for joining me. Hopefully this will be an ongoing segment or series about building your own content. Like I said, there's a lot of different ways. This is just one of the ways. I don't actually do it this way now because I have Publisher, but this was one of my favorite ways up to that point before I bought Publisher. And it's readily available to anybody. So you can add your own little footnotes and details or created by down here. I'm going to add my splash mark to it shortly. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining. I am Justin Hanlon, host of the D&D podcast Crit Academy, also best-selling author on DM's Guild. So definitely check out our stuff. And once again, thank you for joining me. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say. So keep your blades sharp and spells prepared, heroes.